What's going on, YouTube Metal Complex here, and today we're going to be doing a battle or a versus or a comparison or whatever you want to call it between the H&K Exemplar and the Hogue Ritter RSK MK1 G2. You might be thinking, some of you might completely understand why I'm doing this, and some of you might be thinking, why? Why are you doing this? These are both made by Hogue. Hogue in collaboration with Doug Ritter, or Hogue in collaboration with Heckler and Cooch, Heckler and Koch, Heckler and Cook, whatever. I'm not really sure how to pronounce it. While I was carrying this, you guys may have watched my review on that one, the Exemplar. I could not help but think, man, this really, it feels like just a modified, slightly smaller version of a Benchmade Griptilian / Ritter Hogue. You know, it felt so similar in just the mass that was being taken up in my pocket, and how it was manipulated, or how it deploys and how it feels. I just thought, you know, there's got to be other people out there now, or if not right now, then maybe in the future. Maybe you're watching this video in the future, and you're wondering, you know, you've got to the point where you're like, I'm interested in one of these knives. Which one should I go for? Now, as of right now, this thing has taken the world by storm. Those of you who were quick enough to get your hands on one the first round, you beat me. I had to wait for the second round. I don't know if they're available right now, if they're sold out or what, but these are awesome knives. Now, I think actually in this knife may have gotten, or, you know, I don't know, maybe it'll become more popular, you know, soon, but this knife might have more attention if this one wasn't getting so much attention right now. I don't know. Hogue has impressed me with these two knives. These are the first two and the only two knives from Hogue that I have ever handled, and I am thoroughly impressed for a lot of reasons. Both of these knives are excellent in terms of an EDC tool. Their blade shapes are excellent, their ergonomics are excellent, their materials are excellent, fit and finish is excellent. The execution in general for both of these knives is excellent, and they both make excellent choices. So I want to do a compare and contrast. You know, I can hear you guys. A lot of you guys are going, why are you even doing this? The Hogue Ritter is the best. It's got M390. It wins. There's a lot more to consider than just, you know, is it M390? Is it, you know, made by Doug Ritter? Is it based on an ultra famous model? Okay, given. But, you know, hear me out here. We're not going to do this in typical battle fashion. As much as you guys love to see my handwriting, we're not going to do that. We're just going to compare things. So let's do, I know you guys we've already done this, but let's do overall measurements on these guys real quick. The Hogue Ritter is going to be 8 inches overall. I can say that without even measuring it because I use it as a continuous size comparison for my channel. 8 inches overall with a 3.3 or 3.4 inch cutting edge and blade. 3.4 inch blade, 3.3 inch cutting edge. The Exemplar is going to be just shy of 8 inches, probably 7.8 inches overall. Tip to scale is going to be about 3.3 to 3.4 inches. Cutting edge is going to be 3.2 inches, probably not quite 3.25, just shy of 3.25. So they are similarly sized, with the overall size going to the Ritter Hogue. Let's turn them this way and take a look. You know, those of you who watched my Exemplar review this will already look familiar. You can see there we're looking at the exact same blade stock thickness, and they both come to about the same point. You know, there might be a little bit more meat on the Hogue, or I'm sorry, the Ritter, but it's kind of masked by how this harpoon notch and the upper swedge is changing how this looks. I would say both tips are heavily reinforced given their starting thickness of 125 thousandths. Neither one of them is going to have a problem, you know, out doing hard work. The Ritter Hogue here, I'm sorry, the Exemplar. Now, in my review, I said CPM 154, hallelujah, I love CPM 154. You know, upon further research, it is not CPM 154. It looks like, according to H&K's website, it's actually 154 CM. So it's not the powder metallurgic version of CPM 154. And that's kind of a bummer, but I like CPM 154 close to how much I like, or I'm sorry, I like 154 CM close to how much I like CPM 154. you gain the benefit of even particle distribution in any powder metallurgic steel. So you don't, I mean, for lack of a better phrasing and for, lack of my better understanding of it, I'm not going to pretend like I understand it and I'm dumbing it down. That's definitely not what I'm doing. I'm not a metallurgic professional. You don't have certain aspects weaker or stronger in certain areas of the blade because everything's even. So M390 is a powder metallurgic steel, and it is completely even across the board as far as the makeup of that steel. That's not to say that there are weak spots and strong spots in a 154 cm blade. It's just, it's perfect distribution in a CPM version of that steel. 154 cm is still an excellent steel and absolutely fitting on a knife that costs $127. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. We have a harpoon shaped blade here versus a drop point blade. As far as where they drop, you can see that the Ritter drops from a higher point. So given that it is both taller and has a longer way to go before it gets to the actual cutting edge, I will say cutting performance is definitely going to go to the Ritter Hogue. It's a slicier blade. Now, some of you may not be looking for that specifically. The nice thing about this one is it does have a choke up position and it does have the harpoon notch. Some people will favor just that ergonomic hand position over the Ritter Hogue's elite slicing performance. It's up to you. One blade is not necessarily better than the other. Slicing performance is not always the number one thing that you look for. You can definitely feel that the Ritter Hogue is thinner behind the edge. That's not to say that the H&K is not capable of slicing. It definitely is a sticky edge from the factory, and it absolutely does slice no problem. I do enjoy the choke up position and the ergonomics of this. Let's talk about deployment on these guys. So, I'm not going to say one's better than the other. Both knives have a thumb stud. They're slightly different in terms of how they're shaped. You can see this one has the more of a, just tapering, and this one is cylindrical out to a certain point and then has the texturing there mostly at the end. Both knives deploy perfectly. Both knives have, just the right amount of friction being applied from the axis bar or the able bar, whatever you want to call it. Both of them have nice areas to get your finger or the meat of your thumb in behind the thumb stud. Both of them have a good design on the thumb stud, and both thumb studs are in the right place as far as on the blade. Both thumb studs are slightly in the cutting path, but if you're cutting at an angle, as most people generally do as they work, we don't generally cut straight down. We generally kind of slice, which is why knives are designed with bellies. You draw material through the blade. Both thumb studs are slightly in the cutting path, whatever. It's not that big of a deal. Both knives have a great, button head Torx pivot for adjustments. Both have slightly larger than your normal sized Torx bits, the ones that always strip out your hardware. So that's easy there. Both of them have, it looks like the Ritter Hogue's got actually just one extra screw. I will say that on the back here, I do prefer the open body design of the Ritter Hogue to this. If they had left that partially open and done some standoffs, or partially open and done a backspacer, it would have been a totally different story. But I'm definitely going to give it to the Ritter Hogue there. Both of these knives are using a partial cartridge liner that runs about 50%. I don't know if you guys can see that in there. Can you see the reflectivity on there? Yeah, 50% the body. This one's a little harder to see because it's closed, but it is. You can see that reflectivity of the metal in there runs about 50%. And then the rest of it's G10. As far as structural integrity, both are plenty strong. You should not be concerned in the slightest as to whether or not either of these knives can stand up to most any task that you would ask of a folding knife. I definitely would carry these knives just about anywhere. To the office, construction site, in the jungle, trying to survive for however long. Not that that's a reality, but, I definitely could. If my phone is buzzing, I'm so sorry. People always text me while I'm doing videos. Here lately, more often. Anyways, let's talk about pocket clips. Now, Both knives can be mounted left or right-handed for tip up, but the Exemplar can actually be mounted tip up, tip down, right or left hand. It's it's drilled there for the tip down position if you're that type of person. Now that makes this one not only truly ambidextrous. No, both of them are ambidextrous, but the Exemplar can be mounted no matter, whatever your preference is. You're limited to, I always have to turn the knife. You're limited to tip up on the Ritter Hogue. That's not a problem for me because that's what I prefer. Whether it's a flipper, a thumb stud deployer, that's just what I prefer. So that's a nice little bonus you get with the H&K. But it's not really a bonus. It's not like people like switch between their left and right hands usually with their pocket knives. Maybe you guys do. I don't. I set it and forget it. Let's talk about the pocket clips. While I don't mind the Hogue's pocket, the H&K's pocket clip, I don't mind it. It is kind of unnecessarily large. It does not create a hotspot, so I can't really count it, as far or knock it down in points there. Not that there's any specific point system being applied to this video, but I can't really knock it down much. It's not unsightly, but it's more unsightly versus the Ritter's deep carry clip, which is one of my favorite pocket clips of all time. So that's going to be a preference thing. Neither one of them are, like causing an issue. They're perfectly fine. They both carry about the same. There's about the same amount of meat sticking up out of your pocket. You can see there. There's the Ritter Hogue. There's the Exemplar. Both of them have a similar position for the lanyard hole. They're both the same. They both can, they're both will compensate for, not compensate. Both of them will allow for 550 paracord to be pushed through there just fine. So if you're a lanyard person, fit and finish on both of these knives is excellent. They're both great. The Ritter Hogue runs $155 right now. We'll see if that stays. And this base version of the Exemplar runs $127. The only thing that you're getting above the Exemplar, and I say above, heavy quotes on that because we're going to talk about that, is the blade steel on the Ritter. This is M390. It's a powder metallurgy steel. Many people consider M390 to be the best blade steel in the world right now for a pocket knife under 4 inches. Now, the benefits of M390 are corrosion resistance, definitely. I have never seen corrosion on any of my M390 blades in the last 8 or 9 years. As long as I've had a blade with M390 on it, or 20CV or CTS 204P, they're all the same thing. I've never seen corrosion on it. So it's definitely got that. The other benefit is incredible edge retention. It has one of the best edge retentive properties of any steel that's out there right now. Off the top of my head, steels that have better edge retention, supposedly S90V, S110V, S125V, Rex 121 if you really want to go up there. And then maybe like Maximate. But a few of those are obscure. And a lot of times you're trading off qualities in a steel that you really wouldn't want. Plus you increase brittleness, which means, it's more likely to chip, which is a huge problem. Now, the downside to M390, and a lot of people don't talk about this, unless you are well seasoned in the art of sharpening or resharpening your knives, M390/20CV/CTS204P is a nightmare to sharpen. I'm working on one right now. It sucks. I'm a new guy to sharpening. If you haven't watched my sharpening videos and you want to watch a new guy struggle, I got 2 of them. It's hilarious. So I'm sure you'll find that very entertaining. I'm trying to sharpen a 20 CV blade right now, and it sucks. So far, right now, I'm stepping back a little bit from my original opinions of M390 and 20 CV because I hate how hard it is to sharpen. Now, some people in the comment section would probably say, you get a little better at sharpening, it's not going to bother you so much. And I will say that's probably true. I probably need to just take the next few years and figure out exactly how to sharpen correctly, and I might change my mind. However, let's talk about 154CM. 154CM is considered one of the most well-rounded steels that exists, alongside its more premium powder metallurgic form, CPM 154. You have decent edge retention, and by decent edge retention, I mean it's close to D2, I want to say it's either at D2 or a little bit under D2 in terms of edge retention. Far above VG10, AUS8, steels like that. It's definitely stainless steel. I want to say it's 14% chromium. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong. Versus M390's 18 or 20% chromium. Again, correct me if I'm wrong. It is a tougher steel though because of that, meaning way less likely to chip than M390. And while it won't hold an edge as long, since it's less likely to chip and easier to sharpen, it's not going to be nearly as frustrating. The knife will hold an edge for a reasonable amount of time, and then when it's time to sharpen it, you're not going to spend nearly as much time as you will on 20 CV. In my experience, you're looking at 1/5 to 1/3 the time spent sharpening M390 on a 154 cm blade, which is why I say that 154 cm or CPM 154 is my favorite user steel, because it's not the best at any one thing, but it's good for just like, hey, I need a pocket knife to do a whole bunch of crap. 154 cm. Not going to rust on you, not going to chip on you for the most part. It's going to be plenty tough, and if you mess it up, you can resharpen it. That's the nice thing about 154 cm. So, for those of you who are well seasoned in sharpening, right? I would say probably the knife for you, like if you're going to use your knives all the time, and you know exactly how to sharpen your knives, and you are equipped to do that, the knife for you is probably the Ritter Hogue, just based on that. Because there are benefits to the edge, the longer lasting edge, and the higher corrosion resistance to the Ritter Hogue. Now, it all depends on what you're going to use the knife for, because remember, 154 cm is a tougher steel. For those of you like me, your average Joes who are not well seasoned in the art of sharpening, I would say at least, I can understand the temptation for this guy, at least give this guy a look. Give that guy a fair thought, because you're talking about a $30 difference between these two. A $28 difference between the two. We haven't talked about ergonomics. We haven't talked a whole lot about ergonomics. Both of these knives will fit if you have medium to medium large size hands. At least, you're gonna be able to get your hands all the way around both of them. If you've got, as somebody else pointed out, if you've got triple XL size hands, then no. But that also crosses a myriad of knives off your list if you've got gigantic hands. So that's kind of besides the point. If you're an average size person to slightly above average size person, you're going to be able to get your hands around both of these. Neither of these knives restrict you too badly in terms of where you want to put your hands, which is great. That's a big deal to me ergonomically, especially the Ritter Hogue. Let's talk about action and deployment. So both of these knives are thumb stud deployers. Both of them deploy smoothly. They're easy to whip back into place. They both have that satisfactory sort of locking sound that you get with the Axis lock. I will say this. Now, it's probably just my example. My Ritter Hogue is plenty smooth. It drops. Little tiny, teeny, tiny little bit of friction. This guy, however, oh my goodness, is that smooth. I have never felt a knife that runs on phosphor bronze feel absolutely frictionless. That feels like multi-row bearings to me. It's that smooth. It's crazy. I don't know if they're all like that, or if I just got a slightly below average Ritter Hogue and a slightly above average Exemplar, but my God, is that impressive. Both of them are fine. They'll both, eventually they'll break the elements and constant use and crap getting in and out of there. They'll probably both even out over time. Both of them lock up solid. There's no blade play up, down, left, or right. Both of these knives are centered. I'll give you an example of this one here too. Both knives are centered. No issues there. Like I said, the difference here is $28. And as of right now, most people are going to go with the Ritter Hogue. The Ritter Hogue is the Benchmade Griptilian's form perfected. There is, simply put, there is nothing else they can do to this knife to make it better. I mean, this is the ultimate form of a knife. This knife is done. There is no reason to evolve the Benchmade Griptilian anymore. Doug Ritter and Hogue got it, much to the dismay of Benchmade. But the fact that the Exemplar exists, which is, like I said, it's a collaborative effort with H&K, tells me that Hogue is Hogue is interested in putting out some, similar. They're taking notes from the Griptilian and they're making slight modifications to it and creating different knives. There's no reason to evolve this anymore, but this I still consider a different knife. Hogue is going to do this. I hope. It seems like they're making good models and their quality control is good. There is a reason to consider. It's not like the only thing that Hogue puts out that's good or worth buying is the Ritter Hogue, and then you can ignore them. No, they, obviously they make other good models and they're worth paying attention to. These two, right now it might seem like the obvious choice is the Ritter Hogue, but in my opinion, there is a reason to consider this other one. Both of these knives are two of the most excellent deals as far as what you're getting for the money out there. In fact, I'll probably do a top 5 or top 10 video on best knives for the money in existence, or in my opinion. But I honestly believe that we've got two of them here. $127, American made. Both of these are American made. American made, 154 cm, 154 cm. Great fit and finish, G10, etc. That the Exemplar is a great knife. I'm fearing that it will fly under the radar, but it shouldn't. It's really an awesome knife. Let's talk about aesthetics. This is going to be different for every single person, but aesthetically, truthfully, I find the Exemplar's blade a little bit more appealing, just because I like that harpoon notch. But getting down to the handle, these stickers they really just should have left the G10 smooth all the way through. That just looks funny to me, and it's not providing enough traction to justify that it's there. The pattern here on the G10 for the Ritter Hogue is perfect. You're going to get traction no matter which direction your fingers are moving. That's an awesome traction pattern, and it looks good and it goes with the knife. So aesthetically, yeah, there's a reason to like the blade on one and the handle on the other. They're both fine. So which do I honestly prefer? You guys should be making this choice for yourself, but which do I honestly prefer? Well, the problem is that I'm a little bit biased because I've always enjoyed the Doug Ritter Griptilian, and I've always enjoyed the Griptilian, and I've owned like the second most owned model of any knife that I've ever owned is the second most knife that I don't even know how to say this. The knife that I have owned the second most of is the Griptilian. I've owned more Hinderers far and away than any other. I've owned 21 or 22 Hinderers total now. I think I've owned 7 or 8 Benchmade Griptilians. I'm counting this as one. And it was all kind of like this search. Like I felt like it was so close, but they just didn't quite have it perfect. Well, now there's a perfect version of it. So I'm a little bit biased. I like that one. It's hard to argue with M390 on G10 for $155 at this caliber. You could argue. I think I pointed it out in this video. You could argue that the new point of diminishing returns in the folding knife world is the Hogue Ritter Griptilian. Like after $155, show me a knife that performs better at more tasks. That's a folding knife, in this caliber than the Ritter Hogue. Seriously, it may be very difficult for someone to prove that it's worth spending more money than the Ritter Hogue. But hey, if you could get almost as good of a knife or arguably as good of a knife for $28 less, would you do it? A lot of people might say yes, and the Exemplar is right in there. Alongside the PM2 and the lightweight Para 3, the Para 3, the Manix 2, the original Benchmade Griptilian with the plastic scales and S30V. A lot of people are cringing at that, especially with this one on camera. But there's a lot of good deals to be had out there for knives, and I think the Exemplar deserves a little tiny bit of that spotlight. It may not ever get it. It may fly under the radar, but I really like this knife. I don't know. I hope you guys found this entertaining. I haven't done a battle for a long time, and I don't want to force it. I want to do two knives that actually, make a good comparison, or that, people might actually be considering. And I just thought chances are, if you're going through Hogue stuff, you've probably seen both of these models. And if you're looking to spend around $150, you might have considered one or both of these knives, so it might help somebody out, I really, really like both of these knives. They're both just about perfect 10s in my book. Not quite. Nothing is a perfect 10. It'd be sad to actually find it, kind of. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like. So please check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, then please subscribe to my channel because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, and have a great day.